Viewers, at 7 p.m. tomorrow, that's right, history will be created once again when Narendra Modi is sworn in as India's Prime Minister. What is exceptional this time is that the Prime Minister will be the only non-Congress Prime Minister in history to serve 2 full terms. 2 full terms. Atal Bihari Vajpayee did not, unfortunately for him, serve 2 full terms. But the big news will also be who makes it to his team. He has been entrusted with the onerous task of leading India to greatness by you, the voter. Who he selects to help him do this job is critical. Now, Times Now has been piecing together the details that have been emerging from our sources within government, and we can give you an overview apart from some specifics. So the Modi cabinet list is almost ready. The inside track is that there's going to be a shake-up in top 4 portfolios. This shuffle has been necessitated by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's recusal on health grounds. Defense and Home could see new faces. Insiders avoid speculation on Amit Shah. There's a lot of talk about Amit Shah entering the portals of government. But the party and the insiders are trying to scotch this speculation for obvious reasons. There are no dramatic changes expected in the PMO's composition going forward, at least in the near term. But 2 key officials, even as we speak, are holding consultations. Speculation over the NSA, a change possibly, has been dubbed as unfounded. So if that change does happen, it's going to be kept really under the wraps till the last moment. And we are being told that handsome rewards for 2019's giant killers are in the offing, and new allies AIDMK and JDU to get berths. This is just an overview, as I told you, but we are being told also, viewers, that till the last moment the Prime Minister is trying to convince Mr. Jaitley to join his cabinet. He is actually going to drive down to meet Arun Jaitley shortly. That's likely at about 8:30 p.m. We're going to cut live to that. And there is a specific request to Mr. Jaitley. Please reconsider your decision. Mr. Jaitley has been keeping ill, as we all know, and today he wrote an impassioned letter, and it's rather selfless letter, to the Prime Minister saying that he should be recused because he needs at least 4 months to recuperate. He needs to focus on his health. There has been all sorts of speculation about the extent to which his illness is debilitating him. But all of that, of course, is besides the point. In an act of rare selflessness, Mr. Arun Jaitley has requested to be recused. And the Prime Minister is, at least on the face of it, not having anything of it. And I just want to go straight across to Aditi to get more details on this. Megha Prasad also joins this broadcast. Aditi, this is a dramatic development, a twist in the tail. Obviously, the Finance Minister's position is very, very crucial. Mr. Jaitley, considered the architect really of the implementation of both the GST and DEMO, the path-breaking reforms, and also a vital cog in the legislative wheel. Every bill must be underwritten by legislative robustness, and he provides those inputs. He also has considerable knowledge of the way systems in government work, and without him there will be a massive void. So obviously the Prime Minister is trying his level best to try and get Mr. Jaitley to reconsider.
Well, Rahul, Arun Jaitley is a very important person in the Union Cabinet. He was the one who worked extremely closely with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to ensure that demonetization and GST could actually become a reality. Today, in about half an hour from now, the Prime Minister really will be making a last attempt in convincing Arun Jaitley to retain his position, to be a part of the government of India, even though sources have been telling us that Arun Jaitley was given a time of 3 months by the Prime Minister to take rest. That 3 months hasn't come to an end. And I'm just cutting across to these pictures of Ramlal, the General Secretary of the BJP, who is just stepping out of the residence of BJP Party President Amit Shah. And even as and when we talk, Rahul, the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister and the Additional Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister are currently inside meeting Amit Shah. So the speculations are high that any time now the official calls of who will become the part of the government of India, of the Modi 2.0, will be decided here, and the calls might just start going very, very soon. Apart from that, what we're given to understand is the allies, even though the BJP has sufficiently all by itself managed to cross the 300 mark, so they don't really have any liability on themselves to appease the allies. However, there were initial promises and assurances that were made by the BJP to certain political parties, whether we talk about the JDU, the AIDMK or the Shiv Sena. So they might get a prominent space in the government of India.
We'll come out to all of that. We'll come out to all of that. But we are also hearing that Rajnath Singh is meeting Mr. Narendra Modi. He's reached 7 LKM, and that happened about 15 minutes ago. Mega Prasad. So that's more detail coming in. Aditi also updating us on that. And also we are being told that Principal Secretary is at Amit Shah's residence. Both, in fact, PK Mishra from the PM and Nipendra Mishra, both are present there. So there's obviously some consultation going on which requires the presence of the top minds of the government, Megha. So basically the search will be narrowed down if Mr. Jaitley, it's an unprecedented situation, viewers. You see, principles matter a great deal to Mr. Jaitley. And he in principle has said that if I'm not fit, I am not going to bear the burden right now of an onerous responsibility that Mr. Modi expects of me. And Mr. Modi, in a very unprecedented gesture, I don't think this has actually happened with such visibility in the past, on the eve of a swearing-in ceremony where the Prime Minister himself leaves his residence to go to one of the main players in this government and asks him to reconsider this decision. It tells you a lot about the faith, Megha, that the Prime Minister has in Mr. Arun Jaitley and the contribution that Mr. Jaitley has made to the NDA 1 under Mr. Modi. Megha.
It's interesting, Rahul, that you use the word faith. And let me tell you this, just 2 days back, somebody really senior in the Bharatiya Janata Party sent me a message when I was asking them about Arun Jaitley and whether he would be a part of the cabinet. The message, if I could read that message out, the message actually said that the Prime Minister has such faith in Mr. Arun Jaitley that if he doesn't opt out himself, the Prime Minister will keep him in the cabinet and will make him the finance minister. That actually sums up the equation that Prime Minister shares with Mr. Arun Jaitley, and that goes back to years when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. I have seen them myself, really close relationship between the two of them, close friends, and the trust that the Prime Minister has on Mr. Arun Jaitley, especially when it comes to big decisions, the significant decisions of the government and even otherwise. Let me tell you, Rahul, there are party decisions that Prime Minister has taken solely on the advice of Mr. Arun Jaitley, and they have been very, very important decisions of changes in the party and the government. So that's the kind of trust that the Prime Minister has on Mr. Arun Jaitley. Now that Mr. Arun Jaitley has written the letter and recused himself, of course, the friendship sort of says, calls for this sort of a meeting. It is, of course, rare the way you said it. It's rare that the Prime Minister is driving down. But let's see whether the Prime Minister will be able to convince Mr. Arun Jaitley to be part of the cabinet or not. Because if that doesn't happen,
there are
Rahul,
some options,
the speculations, of course, are rife that it would be the Adhyaksha of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Mr. Amit Shah, taking up the finance portfolio.
Well, yes, you see, look, I mean, there is so much talk. It's a very, very important responsibility. The state of the economy as of now is on a razor's edge. The international climate economically is also poised on a razor's edge. But who could actually, if Mr. Jaitley decides that, look, I'm not up to this job, I'm not fit enough right now, I don't want to let down the Prime Minister. I've earned his trust and he believes in me. And if I'm not 100%, I can't obviously function optimally. And I may not be able to shoulder these responsibilities. So if he does, who could be in the running? We have some inside tracks on that. Padmaja Joshi joins the broadcast. Padmaja, just talk us through this.
Okay, so who are the probables who could fill into the shoes of Mr. Arun Jaitley should he decide that he doesn't want to take up the job? Let's take a look at the information that has been accessed by Team Times Now. So here is the Prime Minister. Who will join him around this table as a possible next finance minister? These are the names that we have. Former Commerce Minister and now Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is one. Piyush Goyal, who in fact was standing in for Mr. Jaitley even as he was unwell, is another name. Jayant Sinha, who was a junior minister in the same ministry, is another probable. And finally, could it be a surprise candidate? Someone, Rahul, who comes from the outside, is a technocrat. Could he be taking Mr. Jaitley's place in the finance ministry?
Well, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Let me just go straight back now very quickly to our panel. This is a very critical decision. Padmaja, I'm going to check back with you. You've got a new list out. We're going to come back to that in just a few moments. But let's just go back to the visuals. Any moment now, the Prime Minister will be actually leaving for Arun Jaitley's house. Those are the top headlines this hour as far as the inside track on the larger picture. We're going to get to specifics, but I want to ask Mr. Jagannathan, who is, of course, an expert economic commentator. I want to ask you, does it surprise you at this moment, at this late juncture, that an effort is being made to try and win back Mr. Jaitley, who has recused himself on health grounds?
Actually, it makes a lot of sense that the PM wants to keep Jaitley close to him, because I think they have had a very long-term relationship. The very fact that Arun Jaitley got the finance ministry in 2014 indicates the depth of their relationship, whereas when there are other contenders at that point. So my guess is that if there has to be a change for whatever reason,
Mr. Jagannathan, who are the contenders?
Term actually, I would say, I think the only two contenders were Amit Shah, number one, and second, Piyush Goyal, who has been replacing him whenever required. If you want a lighter weight, it would be Piyush Goyal, but if Amit Shah himself wants to anoint himself as the number two de facto in the ministry, it would logically be finance, because he can't take, because that is considered the number two post in this ministry. So it would be logical for Arun Jaitley, if he is to remain in the cabinet, it would be like he has to step down from that earlier position. So I think the PM wants to make sure that he is not unhappy or whatever changes happen. Of course, he has the health to contend with, but I think there are subtle messages here that also need to be taken on record. That the PM does not want Jaitley to be unhappy over the fact if there are changes in the finance ministry.
Okay, so you believe that there are sensitivities involved. Now, there are also challenges, and before I open this out, I want to bring you in, Anand Ranganathan, Sanjeev Srivastava, and I want to get you to explain to me whether, Anand Ranganathan, you have come across a situation like this, where on principle, and I must admire Arun Jaitley, on principle, he knows that perhaps his health is not going to allow him. A lot of people would have sort of brushed that under the carpet. Power, pelf, position matters a great deal in politics, and that also influences the perceptions. So by doing this, he's acted selflessly, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Good evening, Rahul. Thank you very much for having me. First of all, my very best wishes to Mr. Arun Jaitley for his very fast recovery, and well done to him, and I think he's done the right thing. But let's be very honest. I hope people wouldn't mind me saying so, that he has been one of the worst performers as far as finance and economy is concerned, and the next 5 years do not really augur well for India as far as the economy is concerned, because if you know, the world is probably going to go into a recession. The world trade is at its lowest ebb since 2009, when the subprime crisis happened. The GDP is going down. Things aren't looking very good, if you know, in the last 5 years, if you were to appoint anyone I would say the manner in which Mr. Modi's cabinet has handled the economy might as well be Sitaram Yechuri. It's been a totally left-wing handling of the economy. It's
well, let me bring in
government.
Mr. Jagannathan on that
And,
point. Look, I mean,
do agree with Jaggi.
when the UPA when the UPA vacated office, the economy was around 5.5, 5.7, 5.8%, and from there we are plus 7%. We are supposedly the fastest growing, largest economy in the world among those. So I just want to ask you, Mr. Jagannathan, to suggest that Mr. Jaitley did a disastrous job, do you think that's a stretch? Or were the circumstances such? After all, demo was a great disruption.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that some parts of the job he handled well, like for example, getting people on board for the GST Council and other things. But there are other parts, I think, that were troubling. But the main thing is, Mr. Jaitley did not do anything that was entirely his thing. He implemented large parts of Mr. Modi's agenda, and he was only there in the implementing capacity.
Correct.
And let's not forget, big reforms like the insolvency code, the GST, and even demonetization have a deflationary impact on the economy. So all these things lower the tempo of economic activity, and that is what you are seeing. The net result of all that is what you are seeing now. So if all these things had the PM sanction, to say that Jaitley alone did all these things is not the right thing to say, because that was part of Mr. Modi's priorities too. So
Yeah,
I think we have to take that on board.
That is a point,
he
Sanjeev
did a
Srivastava,
good
that we
job
must take
possible to
note
the
of,
extent that the PM
because
gave
many
the brief.
people said that when demo happened, perhaps even a large number of individuals in the finance ministry did not know about it. The GST, of course, was a very, very important and necessary reform. Dramatic alteration of the tax landscape required also an application on the legal side, which Mr. Jaitley must have provided. So you can't just suddenly suggest that, Mr. Jaitley was a spare wheel, so to speak, to the PMO, was only an implementer, and therefore anyone could kind of do his job.
Rahul, I'll seek your indulgence to actually comment on how one has always talked about the special relationship of Mr. Modi and Amit Shah, but what one has actually forgotten to give equal importance or thought to the special relationship with Mr. Jaitley and Mr. Modi. See, here is a man, Mr. Jaitley, who since the Gujarat riots days was there constantly by the side of Prime Minister. While Prime Minister loved to describe himself as an outsider to Lutyens, Mr. Jaitley was his insider. Mr. Jaitley was the one who had an inside track into Lutyens. So theirs was a very special relationship. Remember also, Mr. Jaitley lost the Amritsar Lok Sabha election, but there was such obvious connect between the two that Mr. Modi still not only inducted him in the cabinet, but gave him finance and defense to begin with. So this is a very special relationship which one can see again today. The manner in which Mr. Modi has gone out of his way to send a special signal to everyone that Mr. Jaitley is special to him and he would have stayed on if he wanted, and the manner in which Mr. Jaitley has been so gracious about stepping down and concentrating on his health, at the same time keeping nation first before himself.
Okay,
so this
more,
is a very
more
special
news coming
relationship.
in.
Now the handling of economy, how
I'm going to come out
how
to you.
the last 5 years have been, that is in principle, Mr. Modi's imprint is there on all the portfolios.
So it also requires individuals with an understanding
to Mr. Jaitley a lot or to give discredit to him.
Of how to make the bureaucracy work, which is also very critical. It's very, very important. And someone who's been part of the system, who has been in government,
Mr.
has
Modi's
experience.
Outreach to media, bureaucracy,
Yes.
civil society was all through Mr. Jaitley.
Is unparalleled also. And therefore, Mr. Jaitley, for all those wider credentials, remains an important.
And I think he is going to continue to play all those roles.
Well, he might. He said that, look, I can
think he's
extend
going to
all the
continue
help
to
and
play
the support
all
in his
those
letter.
roles.
He wrote this to Mr. Modi from us. But I just want to
Yes.
go across to Megha Prasad. We're hearing...
So just...
Yeah, 1 second. We're hearing that the Prime Minister is likely to call all the ministers designated tomorrow morning for a tea after, of course, he goes out and pays homage at two very important memorials at 7 and 7:30 in the morning. Megha Prasad, we're just going to get across to her. But very, very importantly, we are being told that there is going to be a tea. And also more details that are coming in, of course. As we just told you, the Principal Secretary at Amit Shah's residence, Nipendra Mishra rather. P.K. Mishra also present there. We are also being told that any moment now, the Prime Minister is going to exit his residence to head to Mr. Jaitley's house. That's going to happen in around another 10 minutes. We're also being told as we speak that Rajnath Singh is at the Prime Minister's house talking to him. Both Tomar and Meghwal at Shah's residence. We are also being told that, and here it is, 3 confirmations coming in. Let's just quickly go to that. Dharmendra Pradhan, Ravi Shankar Prasad, Prakash Javadekar, Narendra Singh Tomar and Mr. Meghwal confirmed names for tomorrow's swearing in. Megha Prasad putting this out. Aditi also in with the information. Let me bring in Aditi. Aditi, what can you tell us?
Well, Narendra Singh Tomar and Arjun Singh Meghwal have just arrived here at Amit Shah's residence. What we are given to understand is that the official calls have already gone to Union Ministers Prakash Javadekar, Ravi Shankar Prasad and Dharmendra Pradhan. So these are the 3 people and probably one of the first ministers to who the official call has gone for the swearing-in ceremony tomorrow. And right now, Narendra Singh Tomar, who's the Parliamentary Affairs Minister in this current government, and Arjun Singh Meghwal, he has also arrived here at Amit Shah's residence. Remember, there is a lot of preparation also in place and the calls have already started to go from Amit Shah's
but do we
residence.
know what Dharmendra Pradhan, Ravi Shankar Prasad, Prakash Javadekar, Narendra Singh Tomar and Mr. Arjun Singh Meghwal, what particular portfolios they're going to get? Megha, can you update us on that? Are they likely to retain their portfolios or is there going to be a change there? Megha, if you can hear me.
Well, yes, Rahul. So what we can tell you, I really don't want to get into the realm of speculation right now. What I can confirm right now, Rahul, is that these are the names that we've been told. It is Dharmendra Pradhan, Ravi Shankar Prasad, Prakash Javadekar, Narendra Singh Tomar and Mr. Arjun Meghwal, that they are the people who for sure will be taking oaths tomorrow. And add to this, from the allies side, you have Arvind Sawant and Sukhbir Singh Badal. So these are the names that definitely are there, a part of the list. But when you ask about the portfolios, I would only be able to tell you that perhaps Dharmendra Pradhan will have an elevated portfolio and also Mr. Narendra Singh Tomar. Now it also, a lot of this depends, Rahul, whether this particular finance portfolio, whether Mr. Jaitley wants to come back as the finance minister or not. If he does agree, then obviously there is no question of Piyush Goyal being able to get that portfolio. Also the speculation is around Amit Shah. You cannot really tell till the last moment. The closest aides of Amit Shah have been telling us that do not speculate on his name, speculate on every other name. Right now in the confirmed list, I don't have his name. But then if Amit Shah takes up that portfolio, then of course Piyush Goyal gets something else. But if that doesn't happen, then the name of Mr. Piyush Goyal, obviously, as the probable next finance minister, is going to be there.
They wouldn't want to suggest that Mr. Amit Shah is in the running with other individuals. Obviously, that is a sensitivity that they would want to avoid. But that speculation refuses to go away. They might be actually trying to scotch that speculation, but it just doesn't seem to abate. So I just want to bring in some of our guests. Stay on with me, Megha. Stay on with me, Aditi. I just want to also go across to Padmaja in 30 seconds. But Anand Ranganathan, look, at the end of the day, if in case Arun Jaitley stays adamant and says, look, let me get well, and after that we can think of things. Do you believe that Amit Shah has the wherewithal to pull off what is actually a fairly technical job? It requires a deep understanding of finance, the pulls, the tugs. There are international scenarios that need to be considered. There's a lot that goes on.
Yes, absolutely. And I think personally, although, as you said, we are all in the realms of speculation, but I would have thought the ministry that is best suited for Mr. Amit Shah, if he is going to be inducted, would be the Home Ministry. Yeah. Because Kashmir is going to be a massive focus for Modi 2.0. As far as the economy is concerned, may I disagree with some of my esteemed panelists here?
Sure.
What is the job of a finance minister? Is it to always agree with the Prime Minister? I don't think so. You know, especially when the Prime Minister said in 2014, his promise was the government has no business to be in business. At the end of the day, we have only 27 lakh crores to spend every year. And 21% of that goes in propping up sick public sector units and paying salaries. So somebody has to take a stand, and it was very encouraging when Mr. Arvind Panagriya was inducted into the Niti Aayog, you know, to manage it, and then he resigned and went away. The fact of the matter is, Jaggi is probably right. Mr. Jaitley did not actually make most of the decisions that were made by the finance ministry. It was Narendra Modi, and if that continues, then we would see probably a lame duck finance minister. But I'm hoping that would not be the case, because as you know, the economy is going to go into you know, a kind of a recession, because the world isn't doing very well with the trade wars happening, and you know, the
yes, I mean there are headwinds.
You know, I'm hoping for someone who can stand up to the Prime Minister.
Okay.
And yeah,
so you just can't have a rubber stamp.
I think this time around is willing to take a few punches.
Okay, well maybe one of the reasons that the Prime Minister is making this extra effort with Mr. Jaitley is because maybe a lot of the work, the decisions that were taken on his beat were actually taken by the Prime Minister, and therefore Mr. Modi sort of feels latently sympathetic towards Mr. Jaitley. Who knows what the equation is? Madhu Kishwar also with us. Mr. Jagannathan, do you agree in sum toto with what Anand Ranganathan has said about the equation and about the fact that perhaps today we really need a person who understands economics more than managing the legal/political landscape after decisions are taken?
Actually, I would think that Amit Shah also fits the bill. Don't forget, he is both a political and a business heavyweight. He understands business. He may not be an economist, but economists are a dime a dozen in Delhi. So any kind of economic advice is always available. You have a PM's Economic Advisory Council there. You have all kinds of guys. You need people to take very pragmatic decisions that will send the markets a buzz, that will create new animal spirits in the economy. And I think somebody with the heft of an Amit Shah might actually be able to do that. Whereas Arun Jaitley was no economist. He was a law minister in the Vajpayee government. He was actually not the ideal choice for the finance ministry. So I would say that he did a good job under the circumstances. In fact, he met the PM's brief, but he didn't do his job in the sense of telling him what you shouldn't do.
Okay.
Because he just went along with what the PM
That's
suggested.
very important.
And what his bureaucrats
You need to have someone who can tell the Prime Minister what you can't do. Okay, Madhu Kishwar.
10 seconds. Rahul,
1 second. Madhu Kishwar, let me just bring you in. If it comes down to Amit Shah, do you think Amit Shah will be in a better position to tell the Prime Minister, look, certain steps you're taking, I know that you're enthusiastic about them because they will deliver a particular outcome that you imagine, but here is the downside.
First, let me take this occasion to wish Arun Jaitley a speedy recovery, not only for his own sake, but for the sake of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for whom his well-being is of such vital importance. But I think we're all reading just the lines.
Okay.
With Modi, it's best never to predict what he's going to do, and secondly, not to know that there's a lot more between lines than there is on the lines. So this visit to Jaitley's house, or Jaitley's letter to Narendra Modi asking to be relieved, it will take another 5-10 years for the media, if it does honest homework, to understand the meaning of this, to decode the relationship between the two. It's not as simple as you guys are making out to be.
Right.
Now, the point I would like to emphasize is this: no matter who is the finance minister, whether it's X, Y, Z or ABC, the Prime Minister's office is going to manage the finance ministry and the economic affairs, just as he's going to manage the external affairs, no matter who's the foreign minister. So there are some domains which will stay firmly under the grip of the PMO.
Interesting.
No matter who's the Prime Minister.
Okay.
I mean, no matter who's the minister in charge. And these are things, be it Amit Shah,
Absolutely.
the only person who can do what you're suggesting is maybe Mr. Gadkari,
Okay.
who is known to stand up and do his own thing.
Well,
And so
the
it
dynamic,
would be
you see,
interesting to watch
it
what
changes,
kind
isn't
of
it, from
portfolio
person
Mr.
to person.
Gadkari
I think you're
gets,
absolutely
and
right,
whether
Madhu
his
Kishwar.
health is good enough.
I
And
think
I'm
it's
saying
it's
He
difficult
will
to second guess a man
with
who
whom
actually
he has implicit trust.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the Prime Minister has always caught this nation
Rahul,
off
let
guard
us
and also,
remember
of course, his adversaries.
that this
I
is-
mean,
if I
Pakistan
can-
will
if I-
tell you time and again. I'll take a quick, short break here and we'll return. Much more on the table, quite literally so. Padmaja will be updating us on at least 3 important portfolios. We're coming back to that. Don't go away. Amit Shah and Narendra Modi have held marathon meetings now for about 2 days consecutively, viewers, to try and finalize who's going to make Team 2.0, Modi Team 2.0. And even as we speak, we are hearing that the Prime Minister is going to go across to meet Finance Minister Arun Jaitley at his residence to try and coax him into reconsidering his decision. That's the gate. It's going to open any moment. That's Mr. Jaitley's house and the Prime Minister is going to reach there. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. Very, very important. Krishna Menon Marg becomes a big focus point this entire evening. But there are others who are beginning to find themselves getting calls and also getting feelers that they are in for something big. And Padmaja Joshi is going to bring in some of that detail. Giant killers we are hearing to be rewarded handsomely.
Big fights and big rewards at the end of those big fights. Rahul, 4 names that we are hearing of right now. No one's a stranger to the biggest upset of this season. Smriti Irani, she defeated Congress President Rahul Gandhi, no less. Already she is a minister, but expect bigger rewards for her. Rajnath Singh is the other name that we are hearing. Again, already a minister. Kicked up quite a fuss when he was moved from Nevada to Begusarai to a seat that is considered at one point of time a CPI stronghold. Most people spoke about how he was up against Kanhaiya, but there was also a very strong Tanveer Hassan, defeated both by a huge margin. Ram Kripal Yadav, he defeated Meesa Bharti, Lalu Prasad's daughter from Patliputra, and Gajendra Shekhawat, a big upset because not only did the BJP get a clean sweep, all 25 seats in Rajasthan, Rahul, but Gajendra Shekhawat, again, who was a minister in the last cabinet, he also defeated Ashok Gehlot's son, Vaibhav, over there.
Well. Handsome rewards. Now, we are also being told that allies are going to find space in the cabinet. You've got more details on that.
We know of 2 names which have already formally been communicated to Mr. Amit Shah. Ram Vilas Paswan, that is one, the chief of the Lok Janshakti Party. They won all of the seats that they contested, all 6 of them in Bihar. There was a bit of a confusion because he had said, I want Chirag, my son, to take the legacy of my party forward. Apparently, father-son kept insisting on each other's name. The son has prevailed and the father is going to be in the cabinet. Anupriya Patel, already MOS Health. Her party won 2 seats in Uttar Pradesh. In fact, they already had 2 in the last election. She leads her faction of Apna Dal. She is going to remain in the cabinet. Praveen Nishad could be an interesting addition. Why is it interesting? Because the Nishad party had upset the BJP's apple cart, Rahul, in the Gorakhpur by-elections. That's why the BJP had lost that seat. Then the Nishad party went along with the BJP in this election. Praveen Nishad contested not from Gorakhpur but from Ambedkar Nagar. One has a huge chunk of votes from the Nishad community. Could find an entry. Sukhbir Badal, Shiromani Akali Dal,
that pretty
and
much
Arvind
writes
Sawant
itself
of
into the equation because of the old ties between the BJP and Akali Dal. Arvind Sawant, Shiv Sena, well, that's also, of course, trying relationship with the oldest alliance that was forged by Pramod Mahajan, actually, late in the 80s. So, those are sort of no-brainers. Would you agree, Padmaja?
Absolutely. In fact, we heard that there was again a little bit of confusion between whether Sukhbir Badal or Harsimrat Kaur Badal, who is currently in the ministry right now, or in the last ministry. But apparently there is some kind of an arrangement where they'll both have a ministry for 2.5 years each.
Well,
that's what we're hearing at least.
Check back with Padmaja, who's keeping an eye like a fly on the wall in the cabinet room. Well, we're going to go straight across right now to Mega Prasad, as also, of course, we're going to cut across to where it's all going to happen with Tushar. Tushar, has the Prime Minister arrived at Mr. Arun Jaitley's residence? Is he on his way? Is he there? Can you hear me? Tushar, okay. Is he there now? Has he reached? Okay, the police now saying that, look, you can't be around, stand back. Yes. Yes, Tushar, tell us.
Well, Rahul, as we're given to understand that Prime Minister is about to leave for Arun Jaitley's residence. For as of now, the police is taking the measures to keep the media a little further away from the residence as Prime Minister, as it is the protocol. When the Prime Minister will arrive in a short while, Prime Minister will be meeting Arun Jaitley after Arun Jaitley in the afternoon recused himself to be included in the cabinet. And we are giving you the shots from outside Arun Jaitley's residence. Prime Minister will be shortly arriving.
Well, suspense hangs in the air. This is a very important portfolio, Megha. Very, very important portfolio. It's quite obvious that the first choice for Finance Minister, Megha, as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, is Arun Jaitley. Obviously, there is no doubt about this. And if there was, I think we would have not seen the gesture that the Prime Minister is making. Because if it was Amit Shah, perhaps, then we would not have seen the Prime Minister extending himself. If Amit Shah really wanted the Finance Ministry portfolio, I don't think this would be happening, would it?
Rahul, I think I would read it a little differently. I think the gesture of the Prime Minister to drive down to Mr. Arun Jaitley's residence at an hour like this, hours before the entire council swears in tomorrow, is sworn in tomorrow, it speaks a lot about the equation between the two men. It's not about the Finance Ministry. I don't think this is really about the Finance Ministry. What do we know, Rahul? That, the Prime Minister is able to convince him and might give him a lighter responsibility. He might ask for a lighter responsibility. I don't think this is revolving around the Finance Ministry. It's about the equation, the friendship, and of course how long back they go, how far long back they go as friends, Mr. Narendra Modi and Mr. Arun Jaitley. It is about the deep equation that both these men share, and that is why the Prime Minister is driving to his place, wanting him to be a part of the cabinet. So this is what, before Mr. Jaitley wrote that letter today and then of course put it on his Twitter feed, there were speculations that if Mr. Jaitley does not opt out, Rahul, if he doesn't opt out on his own, then the Prime Minister will ensure that his name is there on the list tomorrow that is sworn in as a minister, and then keep him without portfolio, but then he should be part of the Prime Minister's cabinet. This is what the decision was. And then of course he wrote the letter and then he made it public that I do not want to join the cabinet. Now, as of course the Prime Minister is back at his residence, wanting him to be part of the portfolio, they may be able to convince him. He has asked for 4 months.
Minister without portfolio, but that may not be. I don't think the Prime Minister will feel comfortable. Yes, I don't think the Prime Minister will feel comfortable. He won't feel comfortable, and I don't know if Mr. Jaitley would want actually that sort of an arrangement because he has seen the disruption that obviously takes place when you recuse yourself on health grounds. It's happened now twice already. At critical points, the budget was also presented, of course, by Mr. Piyush Goyal back in the end of January, beginning of February. So even that, unfortunately, was not something that was ideal. So I suppose Mr. Jaitley on principle says that, look, the country needs a full-time finance minister, someone who is not addled by illness as of now. He needs his time. Perhaps you can have a situation where a technocrat could be appointed for the next few months to look at the specific coordination between the Prime Minister's office and the Finance Ministry till you find somebody. But I don't think that will even suit people like Amit Shah or Mr. Piyush Goyal, who wouldn't want to be sort of shunted around. So this is very interesting. Now we are being told that in just a few moments, the Prime Minister is going to be moving down to Jaitley's residence. Will Mr. Jaitley reconsider once the Prime Minister speaks with him? The suspense will linger. I just want to also talk a little bit about a sideshow, big sideshow. Viewers, at least 2 or 3 opposition leaders, Mamata Banerjee including, have decided to boycott. Yes, you heard me right. Boycott the swearing-in ceremony. So all this talk about great center-state ties that the federated states in this country want to keep with Mr. Modi, those ties they want to keep, preserve keep them alive. Well, now they're reneging. We are being told that Sitaram Yechuri, the left boss, is not going to be there. We are being told that perhaps even Stalin, there's some confusion over whether he's been invited or not, is not going to go there. Mamata Banerjee said that the Prime Minister is politicizing his swearing in, and she's staying away. Now, are these individuals losing decorum in defeat? That's the central question that I want to pose, and I want to bring in Sumansi Raman. Sumansi Raman, I think the time has come when the opposition begins to accept that it's lost fair and square in a battle that went down to the wire but ended up one-sided. And I don't think they can put their egos above the trust that the Prime Minister has earned from the public of this country, Sumansi Raman. I think the time has come when the opposition gives up.
Rahul, yeah. You will recall that initially Mamata Banerjee had agreed to attend the swearing-in ceremony tomorrow, and subsequently it was conveyed that though the families of the BJP workers who were killed in Bengal would be attending, have been given an invitation, among other states, have been given an invitation to attend this function. So it's quite possible that she felt that it would be improper to. Because today, if you go through the media, there were multiple interviews where the families actually blamed the TMC. So it would be a situation where you would have to come face to face with the family.
Okay, we're having a few problems with that signal there. We're going to try and patch him through once again. But I just want to call you up on this, and I want to ask you, Sanjeev Srivastav. I get the sense that the opposition is now determined to play a destructive role. There is something called a constructive opposition, but this opposition is no mood to play ball. Perhaps jealousy, envy, stung by defeat, call it what you may. This is not in the fitness of things. This is not in the fitness of things.
It is absolutely not. See, even if this election was some kind of a battle of Panipat or what you may, and very, very bitterly contested between the two sides, Mr. Modi and the other side, that election is over. So that war is over. Now you have the task of taking the nation once again, and especially after the Prime Minister said कि जिन्होंने वोट दिया वो भी हमारे हैं, जिन्होंने नहीं दिया हमारे वो भी हमारे हैं. Even if he is saying it for form's sake, you have to wait and test him on those words which he has come out with. So like I say, it is not just lack of grace or lack of civility and good manners. It is also, in a manner of speaking, not respecting the people's mandate. After all, people have given 303 seats. Come on, we are all part of the same process. Opposition, governing party, treasury benches, whatever.
The NDA is
you
closing
have to
in
go
on
out and show to the world that India is one. You have to show to the world that India is one. We stand united.
Shazan, very, very big. It's
He
very,
is,
very
after
big.
all, the Prime Minister.
In fact, in 224 seats, they've actually breached that 50%.
Yes, they have. 224, yes.
So for all possible considerations, they have got Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas and because they did Sabka Vikas. But this show smacks of constitutional discourtesy on the part of Mamata Banerjee. It is constitutional discourtesy. She did not even acknowledge the Prime Minister to be her Prime Minister while she was fighting this battle. And now for her to throw such a taunt for the other...
Yeah, let me ask Mr. Dey. Mr. Dey, how do you... Mr. Anirban, how do you respond? How do you respond, Mr. Anirban? Pettiness? This is pettiness. Unrefined pettiness.
उनसे कहो मुझे विंडो से हटा ले, मैं उठ रहा हूँ.
Could you please repeat the question? I couldn't hear.
Mamata Banerjee deciding not to show up tomorrow, attend the swearing in is pettiness. Unrefined pettiness.
Yeah. What is the exact objective of the BJP to bring in 54 families so-called allegedly murdered for political gains in a constitutional ceremony of the oath of the Prime Minister? Is this the place to play political brownie points, to score political brownie points? Why don't you invite the family members of the martyrs of Pulwama? Why don't you invite the family members of those Hindu Bengalis killed in Assam by the BJP? Why don't you bring in families of those people who have been beaten to death by the BJP workers all around the country? Why do you want to politicize a constitutional ceremonial oath of the Prime Minister? Why do you need to do this? If the CM of West Bengal has done this on this point, that is exact what she should have done, and that is exactly what she has done.
Okay, Nalin Kohli, would you like to respond? You're politicizing this particular historic event, and Mamata Banerjee is within her rights to therefore boycott it.
I have 3 points to make. The first being, this is the swearing in of the Honorable Prime Minister of India and his cabinet members. That's the highest position elected and the highest position in our democratic setup. It's a celebration of democracy, and democracy is made possible when voters who are ordinary citizens of the country elect someone they deem fit through the parliament to be the one, or the government to run the government for their benefit. Now, in this celebration of democracy, everyone wants to be a part of it, and are part of it either by channel or by personal presence. If those who have lost their lives in the fight to ensure that democracy wins, and a tribute is paid to their family members, is that politicization or respect of the highest order? That yes, just as we reward our soldiers on the border for preserving and protecting the country, we respect those who fight to ensure that democracy succeeds.
Well, let me tell you that the Prime Minister has not exactly forgotten the soldiers.
Is she seeing a
In fact, he's going to be visiting the War Memorial at about 7:38 in the morning. He's also going to be paying homage to one minute Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and also, of course, the father of the nation, Bapuji. So, the Prime Minister covering a lot of sentiment, paying respect to the pillars of our democracy. And if he does believe that there are party workers who have sacrificed their all to be there, well, there's nothing wrong in honoring that sacrifice. And I think it's also fitting if Mamata Banerjee
there is another point that
would meet some of these individuals and assure them justice
immediately to herself.
Yes, well, I think that's a point that's well made. Raghav Awasthi.
It's only unfortunate that
I mean, she could easily go across.
Trying to justify the unjustifiable.
And not the
fact is that there were so many visuals that were circulated throughout the time of the duration of the elections on social media, wherein these people were hanging from their necks in a gruesome medieval barbaric fashion. Mr. Anirban should tell us whether he or the party that he's supposed to represent supports this kind of medieval barbarism. These opposition parties talk a big talk about lynching.
Mr. Awasthi, who's an RSS sympathizer member, is telling us that this is even worse. This is political executions. This is the murder of democracy. And in fact, if Mamata Banerjee really wants to convey that she is working for all the denizens of Bengal, she should go up to these individuals tomorrow and assure them justice instead of sitting in righteous building on a dharna.
Make no mistake.
She's going to be actually doing a dharna tomorrow. A dharna.
Is Narendra Modi not the Prime Minister
There are people.
of all the people in India?
No, 1 second. 54 political killings.
Is she the Chief Minister of all the people?
No, 1 second. BJP's claim of 54 killings is untrue, says Mamata Banerjee. We've done a fact check. 42 BJP workers killed during polls. 3 have been killed after the elections. After the elections, it's continuing.
Is Mamata Banerjee the Chief Minister of all the families?
Mamata says the death is due to personal enmity and family quarrels.
Is there a single
Chandan Shaw, Shantanu Ghosh killed by TMC men. This is on record, viewers. Even the police has come out and underlined this fact. This is a fact check. And the third, swearing in is devalued for political gains. Well, invite to opposition chief ministers as per protocol. Every chief minister is being invited as per protocol. And let me tell you, Mister,
you must speak on facts.
No, I'll tell you something. Should I tell you a fact? Biman,
that you are propagating.
No, let me tell you
that you are propagating fake.
Mr. Biman, let me tell you.
Can you back this up?
I'll tell you. Arun Jaitley went for the swearing in of Mamata Banerjee. He's suspended on principle hostilities. And the BJP sent that top brass.
Number 42.
Top brass.
Where did you get this number 42?
No, top
Is there
brass.
a single report from the election
top
commission?
Brass, sir, top brass. top brass was sent by the
Is there a single
BJP
report of the election
to validate
stating that
Mamata
42
Banerjee's
BJP people were
victory.
killed during
And
elections?
even as we have
You
this
cannot
sparring
simply
match
propagate
once
what the
again
BJP
in the
official
evening
says.
over politicians who are trying to reconcile their bruised egos with the reality on the ground, I have to update you viewers, any moment now the Prime Minister is going to be reaching Mr. Jaitley's home. Let's just quickly show those visuals any moment now. There it is, the road's been cleared. There it is, there's the convoy of the Prime Minister reaching Mr. Arun Jaitley's home. And we will know shortly if Mr. Arun Jaitley is going to reconsider his decision to recuse himself from the Union Cabinet on health grounds. He had written a letter this morning to the Prime Minister, impassioned letter, principled letter, taking a very principled stand, saying that I can't serve right now. My health is not allowing it. I need time to recuperate and recover. Please recuse me. But the Prime Minister, realizing the sensitivity and the vitality of the Finance Ministry portfolio, has taken this unprecedented gesture. Let's cut full frame just to get a quick, clear eye of those pictures there. Has decided to go across to try and convince him otherwise. We're going to keep an eye on that. Navika Kumar on the news hour with more details about the cabinet list. Stay with us, don't go away.
Jaitley becomes a minister again, he might just commit suicide.